How you doing today? This your boy. I was watching something the other day and say when Africans, Nigerians introduce themselves and they're like, "It's your boy, Cecil, aka Cimifly, aka." Anyway, I thought that was funny. But how's everyone doing? Hope everybody's okay. Happy Tuesday. We're about to get started. I like to just give it about 30 seconds and we're in. Okay, cool. Anyways, so hi and welcome to my 16th episode of the See Me Fly Live, the Entrepreneur's Journey. I am your host, Cecil Williams. Anyway, so what's up, Carl? How is Turkey? What's up, Kelvin? What's going on, brother? Hope you guys doing good. Anyway, so bottom line is we're gonna get started. Like I said, today's my 16th episode. We've come a long way. Pretty proud of myself. And today's topic is related to something that leads to this live. But before we get into that, let me drop some gems for my sponsor. So today's episode is brought to you by Cimifly Money, a platform built to help empower our community financially so we can make better decisions with money. Check us out, cimifly.medium.com. Cimifly, CIMIFLY.medium.com. Check it out. So today's topic is overcoming fear, which aligns and ties to last week's topic, which was failure. So some of the principles about how we cope and figure out how to overcome failure are similar to some of the things with failure, or they're pretty similar in terms of how we're going to figure out how to overcome failure, what we need to do, and that type of stuff. So we're going to get right into it because I keep telling myself I want to do this thing in under 20 minutes, and I'm going to see how best I could do that today. So yeah. Anyways, I'd like to normally start to run down. I like to normally do three quotes and do some talking points, some related to the quotes, but just some things relate about those quotes, and then we kind of just go into like the closing where we talk about solutions. So first, the first quote is, "I have learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Does Knowing what must be done does away with fear." Rosa Parks. So, like she said, I think there's a saying or whatever, that whether you do or you don't, you've made up your mind or something to that extent. And essentially, what it is we make up our minds before we do things, and that relates to. I always say this when it comes to the home buying decision. So this year we bought our first home, but almost 5 years ago we could have bought a home when we lived in Florida, but I had no interest. Well, first of all, I think I was afraid of the whole entire process. I didn't want to dive in, didn't want to. It's not that I'm somebody who likes to do research on things and I like to be prepared, but for some odd reason, there was fear in me about the entire process, and I chose not to even just Google anything related to home buying. Like that was legit fear until a friend of mine who migrated to the United States way after me said, "What are you afraid of? I've done it. It's an easy process. It boom, 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 broke it down for me. Just go ahead and do it." And I'm just like, wow, okay. And that gave me courage to go ahead and do it. So I think sometimes when people make up their minds about being afraid of something, it consumes them. So we try we have to try not to do that. Second quote is, "The greatest mistake you can make in life is continually being afraid you will make one." Eller Hubbard. I think a lot of people are afraid to fail. And it goes to what we were talking about last week. So, as a result of that, they are afraid to do anything. They have fear in just getting to execution phase. And as it says, it's the greatest mistake you can make continually is to be afraid to make one. We're going to make mistakes. I mean, we've never been perfect as human beings. From a very young age, we've always been in positions where that's how we grow and that's how we learn, is by failure, is by making mistakes and repetition, and we get better with that. So keep that in mind. And the third one is, "Too many of us are not living our dreams because we're living in our fears." Les Brown. And this is so true because I think people hear the word dreams and they think of dreams as something that are unattainable. I mean, dreams, and that's what I said in my promo video. You can check it out on my IG. My mentor, Jerome Myers, said to me, or one of his sayings is, your dreams should be real. So people shouldn't have things in their minds that are unattainable. We're humans, and everything, if you want, is attainable. It's about how much work are you willing to put into that. So ultimately, I think we need to make sure our dreams are real, but we need to make sure we put ourselves in a position to accomplish those dreams. We cannot live in fear forever that we're not going to accomplish this, we're not going to do that. And like I said, 5 years ago, and this carried on for some time, where I had a fear of the process it took to buying a home. And here I am today, having done that, but also working in the process of trying to acquire multifamily property. So it all took a mindset shift and a change, but it also took taking action in order to be able to get to where I needed to be fully engaged in that process of making sure I knew what I was doing. So now, I asked that question in my last video. What are you afraid of? And you have to ask yourself this question: what are you truly afraid of? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid to fail? But then there are some people who are not afraid to fail. There are people who are afraid to succeed. In sometimes you would call it imposter syndrome, and I have a whole video about that as well, wherein um, people are afraid of what success. And I would admit it. Sometimes I think of my dreams and I think of the things that I want to accomplish, and they're so huge, and I get scared. And they say sometimes, if your dreams don't scare you, then I don't know what the rest of the saying goes, but if you know, you get what I'm saying. So your dreams should scare you, and I think a lot of times people are also afraid of that. They're afraid of what happens when my life changes? What is it going to look like? I'm not familiar with unfamiliar territory. It becomes discomfort. It becomes uncomfortable. Do the people around you change? I mean, yes, all these things are going to change, but you cannot be afraid. There's certain things you can control, and there's certain things you cannot control. But you do not know until you take that leap of faith and get to the other side and do what's necessary to get there. So don't be afraid of the things that you know and understand. I mean, that's kind of why they're there. Or even sometimes I think the unknown, because I think if you have a plan, this is not some blinded journey that you're going on. I mean, yes, none of us know what the future holds, but at the end of the day, there's a step-by-step process we have to follow to get to where we need to get to. Yes, like people say, first of all, we have to wake up every morning and thank the Lord that we're alive, and that's step one. And then we have to do the things that, whether it's putting ourselves around people who are going to say, hey, this is the 10 steps you need to become a world chess champion. Then you practice, you do what you got to do, and you hope that you get there. But you believe that the repetition, the work that you put in, the exercises are going to get you to where you need to get to. I mean, you're going to be playing with the big boys at some point in time, or you're going to be where you need to be, and then it's your responsibility, and it's up to you to step up when your number is called. So another thing is, I think we need people, or like I said in my video, your people need you. And this is something my mentor always reminded me of. And I said, oh, well, why should I have to, like before I started my Cimifly money, I always used to say, well, why should I have to write about personal finance when everybody else is writing about it? Why should I have to start a podcast? Why should I have to do this? Why should I have to talk to these people? And he said, we're all communicating to different people. There's 7 billion people in the world. There's someone who needs to hear your message. There's someone who's going to be inspired by your message. So don't think of yourself too small, or think I'm small fish in a big pond, or whatever it is. There's someone who's going to hear what you have to say, and as a result of that, they could change their lives. And never think of yourself, because I think social media it's skewed these days, where people say, oh my God, because this person has 100,000 or 1,000,000 followers, they have the answers. And maybe because this person has, it's funny, as I go sometimes through these rabbit holes and find people, I mean, these are highly influential people sometimes you find, and you look at their social media and you're like, okay, they only got like 3,000 followers, but then there are people out there who are making all the noise, and they maybe have 2 million. And as I was listening to the Master Investor on his podcast, well, the David Sands, the Social Proof podcast, and he always has this aura about him where he says people who have the greatest and biggest social media sometimes are the people making the loudest noise, but they have nothing. And that proved to be true with this particular guy. And I'm looking at like his accomplishments and I'm sitting there to myself, he should have more people. But what he's doing, he's engineering something bigger than himself. So therefore, he doesn't need the audience to know what he's engineering. But ultimately, what he's someone like that has done has built a core group of people to make sure he knows what he's doing. He's in the back end. I mean, it's the same thing the master investor said. He said he doesn't necessarily need the audience of the platform because he has a skill. And that skill he has can propel him and take him to the next level, and he can do what he needs to do. And as a result of that, he doesn't need the fanfare. Now, obviously, we live in a world where media is definitely important and it's necessary for most businesses, entrepreneurs, and things to get to the next level when it comes to PR and types of that stuff. But keep in mind, your people need you. Someone out there is looking for the message that you're about to deliver. So don't be afraid. Just put yourself out there. Like I said, 16 episodes in, and I wasn't comfortable with doing this. I was afraid, like most people, when we start things. It's funny, a friend was telling me and giving me feedback. He said, when I started, there used to be a lot of and all that type of stuff. And as a result of that, when you do that, people get distracted and they just leave. They don't want to hear what you have to say. And I'm still trying to get better. I'm still trying to learn how to communicate. I'm having a conversation with a screen. So sometimes it's not like I'm sitting in front of someone and having to talk to someone. But it's funny because when I actually do communicate with people, one of the greatest challenges I have, I do not like to look people in the eye. So that is something that I become conscious because a friend of mine in college told me that. He scolded me, literally said, when you talk to people, look at them in the eye so they at least feel like you're interested in what they have to say. So I am looking at you in the eye and I'm having this conversation. But in all seriousness, I think this is one of the reasons I do these things, because I have a fear that is subconsciously built in me for whatever reason. And as a result of that, I am trying to figure out, how do I overcome that fear? One of them is by looking at the camera and being able to speak to you and assuming I'm speaking to someone and constantly engaging and not maybe shifting my eyes somewhere because I'm afraid of what I don't know. I mean, sometimes I really haven't figured that out yet. Maybe I have to get therapy or someone who understands the science of why people don't connect with you by looking at you. But here I am looking at you and making sure we connect so you understand that this message is genuine. And I'm pouring myself into it so I can learn. Now, another thing is, I think most people do not let fear cripple you from your greatness, from your legacy. These are big words, greatness, legacy, but they don't have to be this gigantic thing that people think of. I think your greatness could be, I mean, it's funny, my friend always said, there was a guy who said he wanted to be a shoe shiner, or whatever you want to call it, cobbler, shoe shiner. And he said, if I'm going to be a shoe shiner, I am going to be the best at what I do. So if I work at an airport and there's 5 of us sitting there shining shoes, I want to be the best. So whenever people get off that plane, transit at that airport, they're going to think of me immediately. They get off that plane and they're going to come to me because I want to be the best at what I do. That's his greatness. I mean, he's not going to go down in any history books as the greatest shoe shiner of all time, but maybe for the 100 people that he affects their lives, they're going to remember him every time they come off that plane, every time they step into that airport, that this guy is the greatest shoe shiner and I want to go to him. So that is his greatness. So let that translate into what you love or what you know. I mean, if you know how to cook, if you know how to bake, if you understand how social media works, I mean, in today's world, if you are a driver, I mean, think about Lewis Hamilton and people like that, one of the greatest of all time in driving. This is driving we're talking about, something most of us do. One of the greatest, because he realized what his skill and his talent was, and his family and everybody else around him helped nurture it, and he's building a legacy. You can do the same. It doesn't have to be this big, gigantic, massive thing that we all think about, but think about what you're good at and just don't be afraid. Slowly start. I mean, like I said, I started in February, and here I am 16 episodes in. I started first with 1 episode a month. I started then with every other week, and then I'm doing it every week. This is me improving in many ways, and I'm saying to myself, yo, let's get this done. So don't let your fear cripple you. Don't let your fear take over you, because that's the difference between you realizing your greatness and your legacy manifesting. So now, how can we overcome these fears? Because we all have fears, whether it's, I mean, fears of snakes, spiders, whatever it is, but I'm not going to get into those because I still haven't figured that one out yet. But first, I think you have to identify your fears. You have to know what you're afraid of. And when you know what you're afraid of, then I think it makes it, because there's some people who, if you say to them, I think you, I mean, if you take relationships or girls, they say, oh, we'll talk to that girl. And you say, no, 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 no. And, and somebody say, I think you're afraid to go talk to her. And thanks, Kelvin. Appreciate it, brother. And then and you say, your first reaction is to say, no, 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 I think I got this. But the truth is, it's a fear that has overcome you, and you don't want to. You're afraid to talk to her for whatever reason. I mean, you have your reasoning, but don't make excuses. So first, you have to create. Well, first is you identify your fears, and second, I think you have to create realistic goals. Like I said earlier that we should have dreams, and don't see these dreams as these, oh, I'm going to go to space. Well, if I am 40 years old and I want to go to space, I should have inserted myself in that world to make sure I prepare myself to go to space. I can't have, that's an unrealistic dream. But if I say to myself, by the end of this year in December, I want to have $20,000 of savings in my bank account. Well, first, do I make an income? Do I make money? Yes. So you have to think about these things and say, are some of these goals realistic? And with time, you become better at what you're doing, and you can make more lofty and ambitious goals that you're scared of getting to, but now you have the tools, you have whatever it takes to get you there, the repetition, you've gotten your reps. I mean, it's like basketball players. If you think about or if you think about the baseball player, I don't know if anybody like pays attention to baseball, but Aaron Judge, one of the young greats of baseball today, plays for the Yankees, just hit 62 home runs in one season, and he broke an all-time record that was set back in the 1940s or something of that nature. And at the end of the day, it's not he hits 62 home runs in a 180 season game, but it's because during practice he's hitting 50, 60, 70 at bats, like hitting balls all day long. So just to get to a game to hit one. So think about it that way. You start small, you have realistic goals, and you try to achieve them. Third, recognize your excuses. Like I said, most of us make excuses. We have to recognize when we make those excuses. We have to be conscious of when we make an excuse to say, oh, snap, I just made an excuse. And what can I do to reverse that excuse? Because you've identified your fear, you've created a goal, and you say, oh, I'm making excuses. So for me, especially with doing this live, I said I'm going to do 4 a week. So I know every Monday I have to prepare. I make a promo video. I then said to myself, what is this going to look like? I make a promo video. On Tuesday, I come on live. I have no room for any more excuses. I could have made all the reasons as excuses. Oh, I can't do this. I got to pick up my son. I got to do this. I could have made all kinds of excuses, but I said no excuses, make time. Fourth, surround yourself with success. And when I say surround yourself with success, primarily it's people and resources. Make sure you find people who are doing what you want to do. Ask questions until you get someone who will help you. People out there are willing and ready to give out information. Yes, we live in a world where everybody wants everybody to pay for things, but trust me, there are people out there. I mean, even if you talk to people and they want you to pay and you're not there yet, listen to podcasts. That's what I call it car university. So when I'm driving, I listen to podcasts. I probably listen to podcasts 90% of my time now, and maybe music 10% of the time. So listen to podcasts, read books. The information is out there. Talk to people, bring things up. Just in regular conversation, talk to people, and best believe you will get the information. Now, obviously, I think as we grow and you become hungry for success and you become hungry for the information, yes, you're going, we all went through school. School wasn't free. Most of us had to pay for it. So it's the same ideology. If you want to be good and you want to be great at something, eventually you're going to have to pay for something to get to where you need to get to. But surround yourself around those people. They will provide you the resources. So my mentor, every time I explained to him, so we would come on the call for 1 hour, I would explain to him what was going on in my life and all that good stuff. And it's funny, by the end of it, he would like, by the end of a call, he would just connect me with someone. Hey, Cecil, meet this person, and this person could solve my problem. So that's why I said, Tell people what you're looking for, because at the end of the day, you just never know what tools and resources they have to solve your problems. And last but not the least, adopt a growth mindset. You have to have a positive mindset. You have to have a mind that thinks I'm growing. I'm constantly growing, because I think when you do, then you're going to get to your goals. You have to make progress at all times. You have to tell yourself, I am growing. I'm going to get there. I'm going to do what it takes. So I made a pact to myself for the last maybe 7 to 10, maybe 7 to 9 years. My business partner and I got into trading, not just investing, but trading, and got burnt because sometimes we didn't know what we were doing, or we were following people's rules and all that kind of stuff. And I just stopped, but I learned how to invest. Investing is not a very exciting thing. It's a boring thing. And I said, okay, I mean, I'm going to invest. At least at the end of the day, I'm not losing money over time, because these things take time. But February of this year, same thing like I mentioned to you earlier about having a fear 5 years ago of the process of buying a house. I've always had a fear of what it took to do options trading. It was foreign to me. I mean, when people started talking about options, I walked out of the room because I was embarrassed that I couldn't understand the lingo. I didn't know what they were talking about. I mean, even when my friends tried to explain certain things to me, I would just be nodding my head and answering yes, 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 but I had no understanding of what they talked about, because also when I left that room or whatever the conversation was happening, I didn't do my research. I didn't want to find out more, but yet I kept telling myself, yes, I want to learn how to trade options. So in February of this year, I said to myself, I'm going to learn how to trade options. I bought a course October of last year that I hadn't even touched. Started looking into that, reading. Now I ended up buying a course. I had to invest in myself financially, because this is something that I want to perfect. This is something that I want to utilize to create a way of life for me. So as much as I knew by February, or knew some of it, and practice and did things, and you get in, you make money, you lose money, I wanted to make sure I perfected the skill, because at the end of the day, this is not, I always tell people, it's not monopoly money. It's real money you're making and losing. Yes, you can use paper trading and all that stuff, but I dove in since February of this year, and I've given myself like an 18-month runway. It's like basically I'm saying I'm doing an MBA program and I want to perfect the skill. And by the time that 18 months is over, I want to be better than where I started, and I want to be able to use this to better my life, the life of myself and my family. So that's all I'm saying. Growth mindset, and you have to do what it takes to grow. So again, I'll say this real quick: identify your fears, hit them face on. Create realistic goals. Don't be afraid of creating goals that are small and working your way up to get into the bigger goals. Recognize your excuses. Don't make excuses. First, identify what those excuses are. Be conscious about them and try not to make them. Surround yourself with success. So surround yourself with successful people. Surround yourself with successful information and research, and things of that nature. And adopt a growth mindset. I promise you, if you do that and take action, like Nike, just do it. Keep doing that stuff every day. You're going to make a better man or woman out of yourself. So that is it for today. Hopefully this was helpful. And I hope that everybody out there is going to do what it takes to overcome their fear, and understand that somebody out there depends on you. Someone in your family, someone in your community, someone in the community that you don't even know out there is depending on you to make a difference in their life. So step up and stop hiding. God bless, and hope you all have a wonderful day.